What do we got there, Dennis?
I'm not sure, but he's jumping around. Maybe walleye. Not big, but it just goes to show you how effective this presentation that we're using here today is. And just as a reference point, we're running a very popular crankbait for this area in conjunction with this, and it's literally, the crankbait has caught one fish, and at this point we've probably caught 15 or 20 crappies and, oh, I would guess 10 or 12 small walleyes like this. So there's definitely a time and a place to hang a little meat up here. That's kind of cool. Nice little crappie. One thing interesting to note is we're in shallow water, but we're still pulling heavy snap weights. Doesn't deter these fish at all. Literally, this one, we lift up the rod and it surfaces. We're running a 4 ounce on one and a 6 ounce on the other. We were in deeper water earlier, just chose not to change them out, and it doesn't affect them at all. You'll also notice we're not even running any lead here. It's literally the length of the spinner, which is 3 feet at the most. These weights don't scare these fish. You don't need the long leads. To me, that's largely a myth. Just keep things simple, roll them right up, swing them in the boat. It's that easy.
What do you think you got on, Dennis?
I don't know. Darn good walleye. He's not happy, whatever. Size walleye here. What we're doing is we're not actually targeting these guys. What we're doing is we're on a long, narrow reservoir, and there's a decent population of crappies, but what we're faced with is they're scattered over a 6 or 7 mile area. Marking them on the Ray Marine graph, consistently throughout the whole area, so it's not real efficient to jig these fish. What we're doing is we're actually pulling spinners crawlers through the fish. Obviously we'll take these when we get them. They're not our main target, but kind of a secondary thing today. It's a nice healthy fish here, and we'll let that go. Right. What the method that we're actually using is we're going with the snap weight, 4 to 6 ounces. In this case it's 4 ouncer. Simply running a length of leader here, and this is commercially tied JB Lures Ventilator spinner blade. It's kind of unique in the fact that it's got slots in the blade. And what that does is it creates a little more turbulence in the water. It sends out some cues on the lateral line, as well as being a little more visually prominent for these fish. And we're just simply running a crawler on here. These crappies, we're running a 3-hook harness as well. What that's allowing us to do is if they're sneaking up the back of it, they're going to end up getting a hook. Then we're running these 2.5 mile an hour. The weight is plenty heavy for the depth we're in. Right now we're in 15 foot. We'll end up in 24, 26 when we get closer to the dam and the channel. But we're running them 3, 4, 5 foot off the bottom. Simply letting that spinner do its job. It's real key to this presentation. We've caught a lot of crappies in the past on small crankbaits, but today they're not taking the crankbaits. It always makes sense to try to run a little meat. Typically I'll start out with one rod with some crawler on there, meaning meat. Start out and let the fish tell you what they want. Today we started out with one, and it started to be the hot ticket. We've went to 3 now and just got the one crankbait. And through this, to this point, we've probably caught, I'd guess, 20 crappies, decent sized crappies, one nice perch, small walleyes. Hell, it doesn't take long to get bit again here, but we'll let this work for us. And as we catch some of these nicer crappies, we'll get some of those on film for you. They're going to be real big. Catching some little walleyes here too. Probably something to note is by running these short leads, one of the main benefits is it's so easy just to swing these fish on in the boat. Once again, there's no need to run a long lead to catch these fish. If I can ever get this guy undone, I'll point out a few differences here in what we're doing in conjunction with these snap weights. Well, he wasn't going to get off it. In this case, what we're doing, we're running on a longer outside rod, is we're running a simple keel trolling weight. And what that does, due to the design of it there, is it just runs true in the water. Same exact concept as what we're doing on the snap weights, is a swivel on the back so your spinner will run true without spinning up your line in a knot. And we're running this on a little longer lead. In this case, we're running 1.25 ounces versus 4 ounces on our snap weight. So we're getting this a little bit further behind the boat. It also allows us the benefit of not continually tangling lines if we're taking tight turns and following some of the contours on the channel here on this reservoir. But just something to consider, and you know, even though one thing is working, we can always take variations off of it, adapt a little bit, have the same exact lure down, the JB lure spinner there, the ventilator blade, 3-hook harness, and the crawler. It's working here, and now we'll try to get some crappies. Feel tremendously large. This method will, you know, we're specifically targeting crappies and obviously taking the bonus walleyes that we get. We've had some pike on this, some decent ones, you know, probably in 10-12 pound range. Catches perch, literally anything that swims. It's just a nice little method to cover some ground. We've got the live bait if they want it. We've got the spinner for the attractor. It's just a good all-around way to cover some ground. We're in the middle of July here on a terribly hot day. The live bait thing isn't working so well for obvious reasons. They're not up in the shallows. You know, went to this out of necessity, and we're putting together an heck of a net. On the surface with it, when you hit it, that's the beauty of this. It's just such easy fish. Put these fish in the boat like that. Once again, these are crappies, and in my personal opinion, people get way too concerned about these finesse tactics. So obviously, he's not going to give me any finesse. We're running these baits 2, 3, 2, 4 right now, up to 2.5 miles an hour. They will run them down. It's not a problem. Like I said, this guy hit it so hard, he literally, with a 4-ounce snap weight here, he popped right up on the surface. We're running this 45 foot behind the boat in this instance, in 20-ish foot of water, sometimes a little shallower, sometimes a little deeper, depending on the channel. Just kind of brushing up against the edge of the channel, sliding back out over open water. We are using night crawlers on these because we have them today, but there's no reason using a power bait or a gulp worm, that type of thing, wouldn't be just as effective, particularly as we're moving at these quicker speeds. These fish aren't tasting the bait. I mean, they're coming up and they're smacking the things, so don't get hung up on having live bait. The artificials work just as well, but we've got on hand, and we may be using the artificials quicker than we think, because we went through a number of fish and about run ourselves out of worms here. This is another tip to bring up too, and I've got some personal friends that will do this, and I don't advise it, is if you do get into fish, when you go out for the day, buy more than 4 dozen crawlers. They're not that